Don Mazzella here again for Small Business Digest. You know, uh, I saw a new term, giving up the W-2 form. For me, that was a very interesting comment. We asked Mandy McAllister to join us to explain that and a lot more. So, Mandy, welcome to the program.
Oh, hi, Don. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Mandy, as we ask all our guests, tell us a little bit about yourself personally, then about your organization, which I found fascinating, and finally, where people can learn more.
Happy to. Uh, my name's Mandy McAllister. I began life doing all the right things. I got all the straight A's. I went down wanted to do the medical school route, but figured out very quickly in undergrad that I didn't want a life that tied me to a pager. So I ended up going to business school instead of medical school. After an economics master's, and I worked on the floor of the Board of Trade, which I saw going away pretty quickly and turned into medical sales, where I spent the bulk of my career. And one of the ironies of the world, Don, is because I wanted to avoid being on call in medicine, I chose the business route, but I ended up on call in medicine in the business route. So had some epiphanies that where you put your time and where you put your money is actually the things that matter to you. You can say things matter to you, but if you're not putting your time behind it and you're not putting your money behind it, then they don't actually matter to you. So I chose to actually put my family first and figured out a way to have more flexibility with my life. And that's when I started buying real estate. And as a real estate investor, I was able to leave my W 2 behind. And because that felt pretty lonely, I didn't know anybody else doing that craziness of trying to leave a W-2 as a working mom. And I was a single mom also. I joined a group called Go Abundance Women, that it's a bunch of healthy, successful women who choose to lead epic lives and give back to the world and are more interested in impact than anything else in life. So because I had bought my way out of my W-2, there was a space for they needed someone to serve as CEO of Go Abundance Women, and I was able to step up and take that role in the last roughly 12 months. So believe very strongly in being part of a culture and part of a group who is doing things the way you want to do things, because like your mama used to tell you, if you hang around five people doing something bad, you're probably going to do something bad. If you're hanging around women who are, figuring out how to be free and live fulfilling lives, you're probably going to feel free and live a fulfilling life.
Okay, so your website for people who want to learn more?
Yes, sir. GoBundanceWomen.com. I'll spell that out for you. GoBundanceWomen.com. GoBundanceWomen.com.
Hmm. You put the E in there, and I would have put the A. So, what can I say?
Yeah.
So, having said that, um, the small business when you started is jumping off a cliff and hoping somebody constructs a mattress before you land. Um, Having said that, um, um, I come to you. I'm a woman. I'm not, obviously. I'm not, and I say, I'm here working a 9 to 5 job, but I want to kind of change. What are
Mhm.
some of the things you ask that woman or offer that woman?
It just so happens we serve women at Go Abundance Women. However, the formula is pretty much the same, right? I feel like if you want to hit any target, Don, you need to know what that target is. If you want to be running after something, you have to decide what that North Star is. So if your North Star is, I want to not have golden handcuffs, I want to not have a W-2 so that I can plan my life how I want to plan my life, then what do you need in order to achieve that, right? So in order to achieve that, you need money coming in to be able to live that life. So I always encourage people to really put math to the problem. Anytime there's a problem, you got to put more truth to the problem so that you can solve it in the easiest possible way. So putting truth to a money problem is really just doing the math. What do you need for your family on a monthly basis to be able to live your life how you live your life now, there are a ton of free tools that help you figure out what that could be. My favorite free tool, it's called mint.com, mint.com. It'll help you figure out not only your real-time net worth, it'll help you figure out what your monthly spend is so that you can estimate what you're going to need to live your life once you do lose that W-2. So once you've done that math, then you've got to figure out a mechanism that's going to help you bring in that amount of money over time.
But to me, you're there, but a lot of people that I talk to are afraid to give up that check, that monthly or bi-monthly or monthly check. That seems to them to be the difference between life and death.
I understand that. Here's how I approach that, Don. And you know, I call myself sometimes a mindset ninja because so much of these stories we make up in our own head become insurmountable, become things that you couldn't possibly run after your dreams because of X, right? Or because so-and-so thinks Y, right? So the way that I chose to approach that fear, which everybody has that fear, because you know, I was a single mom when I was choosing to leave my W-2. I didn't want to be homeless and penniless and under a bridge, right? However, I did have some amount of money, cash flow coming in from the couple of properties, investment properties that I built over the last 3-4 years as I was getting started. I realized I could run an experiment, that whatever choice I made did not have to be certain forever. It did not have to be the end result of everything. It didn't have to be permanent. I think we assign permanence. So when it came to that experiment, I decided that yes, if I leave this sales job, I can make 3 or 4 phone calls and end up with a sales job in a month's time. I'm not going to have trouble finding another job if I need another job. So I'm just going to spend 12 months chasing my dream. I'm not putting any more permanence to it than a 1-year experiment. And if I'm able to look at what I'm doing and decide that it still feels good and that I still have runway and I'm still achieving things that I want to achieve after that 12-month time, like I just reevaluate and I do another 12-month experiment. And now we're basically 3 years into the experiment and I'm achieving things and getting to do stuff and engage with people like you that are beyond my wildest dreams. So I'm here to tell you, if you surrender into possibilities and don't pay attention to the stuff that could go wrong, and you start paying attention to the stuff that could go right, more stuff goes right.
Okay, then let me throw the curve at you. You're a married woman.
I am not a married woman.
Oh, you said your children. That's why I assumed that. Okay, so
I'm a single mom. I'm blending families right now. So I'm your lips to God's ears, Don. Well, one of these days I will again be a married woman. However, it's just me. It's just me figuring out how to provide for my kids and also prove to my children as example, because I'm sure if you have kids, Don, that you know that they don't do what you say, they do what you do. So if it's my goal to inspire my children to chase their dreams, me choosing to stay in fear and stay in a W-2 because that's the only way I'm going to be able to feed them. Like I'm teaching them something that I don't want them to have to live out. By me chasing my dreams, I'm showing them an example of how with as much checking that you're mitigating risk as possible, that you can still go and do these big things and live a big life.
Well, you have the courage, but there's a lot of women out there who say in our focus groups that their difficulty is they're there by themselves, and some of them are with children like yourself. That's a big step. I keep coming back to that because I've had other people like you on the show, but always when we come back to the focus group, we'll see those shows say the same thing. Yes, but how do you find the courage to do it? Do you reach out to family, to friends? It's a tough issue.
It is, absolutely. And I'll say, to hear myself called courageous feels weird because I never in my life would have considered myself courageous. I am so completely ordinary in every possible way, but I got curious about stuff. I got curious enough to ask the dumb questions so I could show up and learn and be next to people who were doing the types of things that I wanted to do. I find this for certain. The more I get next to someone doing the big thing that I think is so far outside of my capability, if I'm next to that person, I start to realize, oh, they're just a person, right? And then that thing becomes completely more achievable. So one thing that I'll say, and you know, because so much of this rah, I used to be poor, but now I'm rich stuff like that, that sucks. That is not actionable and helps no one. So to the Mandy, to the mom out there who was basically me 10 years ago, who just would have loved to live this life of my dreams, really want to show my kids what it's like to pursue chasing your dreams, but is in fear. I didn't go from W-2, a high six-figure earner, to nothing. I didn't jump off a cliff with no parachute. What I did is I started setting things up so that I had money coming in on a regular basis. The business that I grew that bought me out of my W-2 was real estate investing. I learned how to buy investment properties. Some of them I bought for $45,000. Like, so it's not really tremendous big deal properties that I chased, but that's what brought in cash flow so that I could depend on it, so that I wasn't going to zero instead of just leaving my W-2. So a book that I think would be helpful is, if real estate is not your path, a thing that doesn't get talked a lot about is buying existing businesses. You don't have to start from scratch and go 12, 24 months with no money coming in as a small business owner. You can go to someone who wants to retire and buy their business. And it's not super expensive. It's much cheaper than buying real estate as a business. So a book that I think a lot of is called Buy Then Build. I don't know the name of the author, but B-U-Y, then B-U-I-L-D, Buy Then Build. Basically, the idea is if you buy a business, you're going to start with money coming in. So you're not going to have that 12 or 24 month drought of dollars. And the way people lose their shirts and have to run away in fear is if they had no money coming in. If you get $0 coming in for a very long time, that is really troubling, right? But if you can set yourself up so that when you do leave that W-2, you get to chase something that already has dollars coming in, it's a lot more achievable.
Mandy McAllister, you are not an ordinary woman. And if you look at our other shows and compare how you come across, I'm being very serious now. Your website again before we go further?
Yes, GoBundanceWomen.com, GoBundanceWomen.com.
Boy, did that organization get smart getting you.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
Now, but now going ahead, you say over there to give back. I'm a little tired. Everybody talks about, as it's almost as if it's another checkpoint you have to have, which is, well, give back. But to me, if you're building a business, you got to be selfish and concentrate 100% on the business 24/7. So, and sometimes people have a difficulty devoting themselves 24/7. How do you help them understand that going out on your own is such a commitment?
You can let anything take over as much time as you want. I believe this is Parkinson's law, that if you need to clean your house done and you say, I got to have my house clean in 4 weeks, it's going to take you 4 weeks to clean your house. But if you're like, I got to have my house clean in 4 minutes because somebody's coming over, you're going to have a lot more done in those 4 minutes than you would if you were allowing yourself 4 weeks, right? So one thing that we at GoBundance Women do frequently is hold each other accountable in terms of, are you living the life that you want to live? Have you designed your life in such a way that your priorities meet how you're spending your time? So I am not about to say, I'm the child of 2 self-employed humans. And I'm not about to say that you can't fill up 24/7 with business ownership. But I do believe in the Pareto principle that only 20% of the things you do provide you 80% of the output. So I would encourage people, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel far past your capacity, really do a look at what you're doing that achieves results. And then look how you can double down on those things that are achieving results, and try to start saying no to things that aren't giving you significant results. So that's kind of thing one. You got to dial back the stuff that's not working, double down on the stuff that is, and then you'll find a lot more bandwidth when it comes to running after growing your business.
Okay. Um, I have a lot of questions, but I guess the next one is, someone comes to you and says, uh, I want to be involved with Go Abundance. What do you say to them, and how do you get them involved if they're in Paducah, Wisconsin, rather than Chicago?
Well, we are a nationwide organization. I do happen to live in the suburbs of Chicago, but we actually have a member in Germany. We have someone who just applied out of Australia. We are we are very inclusive in terms of taking care of our members, but you have to show $1 million net worth, because the types of conversations for the people we serve, it's a different conversation when you're investing $1 million versus 100,000. Right? If you meet that criteria, we would be happy to have you apply on our website. If you don't yet meet that criteria, there's a group that is kind of millionaires in training, as we call it, that you could kind of grow up through. So the goal of Go Abundance Women and of all of our surrounding organizations is to really take stock of how you're living your life. We do something that we call your one sheet, or your Master Abundance Playbook, the map of your life, right? I believe firmly that people spend more time planning Thanksgiving dinner than they do planning their entire life. So one thing culturally, if you take nothing away from this as a listener, I want you to sit down and think through the things you want to achieve. Where do you want to be in 5 years? And how can you kind of work back a plan of how you're going to get there? So we culturally look at how we're doing in terms of, yes, our net worth and our financials, but also like, how connected do you feel in your relationship? Are you giving to charity or organizations that make you feel good? How does that feel? Let's rate that. How happy do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10 in all of these different aspects? And then next quarter, we're going to go compare it to how we did last quarter. So there was, as an example, I had gone on no adventures. Like, I realized, oh, wait, I feel good about where my net worth is. I feel good about my accountability and where my health is at, connected relationship, but I've gone on 0 dang adventures. I need a little more adventure in my life. So I bought an RV and I go on some RV trips with the kids. And we have so much fun and so many memories that we're creating together because of this looking at how I'm doing, taking stock in my life. So culturally, having accountability around, are you putting your time where it matters to you, is really the biggest thing that we do at Go Abundance Women.
Well, then, if it is for women, my wife happens to be in Harvard MBA, and they deal with and in her circle groups, they deal with life issues, and one of the big ones is, how do you deal with mates, spouses, whether they're women or men, or etc. What are some of the things that you've identified that help and impede women from achieving?
This is an ongoing area of study for me, Don. I'll tell you that. I believe also that, the way energy is set up, like I didn't very much lean into the woo-woo ideas of energy and like what you bring to the world and what you get back and all of that stuff. But I'll tell you that the more I lean into that, the more fulfilled I feel. So I do believe that in relationships, there's a masculine energy that goes and does and is very straight and focused. And then there's a feminine energy that's not do, it's just be, it's just exist. It's being willing to receive something. That what got me in the C-suite, what made me a millionaire, was my ability to do, that masculine energy, right? So to remember how to relax into being a girl in my romantic relationship is something that is difficult. And I think it's kind of a special thing to really successful women, because if you're a successful man, to be really successful in a relationship, you just show up with that masculine energy in both places. Right? But if you are a successful woman who also wants a connected relationship, you got to have the ability to switch between those two energies. So one author I think really highly, I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of books. Allison Armstrong, Alison Armstrong, talks a lot about that polarity, that difference of masculine and feminine energy, and learning those things and learning to recognize when I'm showing up too much in do and fix, when I should be relaxing into surrender and girl mode, and what helps me get into girl mode. That has been something I poo-pooed decades ago, but it's meaning for a much more fulfilled life now.
But it takes a strong man to deal with a successful woman. And
You're not wrong.
I'm sorry.
You are not wrong, my friend. It's a difficult journey, but it's so worth it, right?
Well, yes, it's a subject that whenever Joanne goes to one of the Harvard events, I listen to it. A lot of women simply can't find a strong man.
So much of it is communication and clarity. And I'll tell you, so my boyfriend with whom I'm blending families is a high school teacher. And when I feel heard and when I feel connected, that, my job is something that has, quote unquote, more esteem behind it than a high school teacher. But that man is smarter than me. That man gets more stuff done than I do, So I believe, really paying attention to what serves each of us, what each of our needs are, and full clarity around communication and needs. And frankly, being able to identify your own needs is a big thing that I didn't have for the first 35 years of my life. So you can't get in relationship what you can't define for yourself that you need. So as a man, as a woman, whatever, like, you got to decide what you need and find that polarity in a partner.
Okay, I'll throw a curve at you. What do you talk about with a prenuptial agreement?
Good question. So actually, there's a book called Intellectual Foreplay, Don, that my favorite date early on with my boyfriend was we'd have a glass of wine and I'd look through this book. It's just a bunch of questions of deep conversations that you should have with a mate.
It was actually on our show.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
Great book. So this was my date. This was my favorite date with my boyfriend. We would go through and we would read a question and he would answer and then I would answer, whatever. One of his first questions was prenuptial agreement. He brought it up. It was something that he thought we should both have, because we are both bringing children into a next marriage. We're both bringing assets into a next marriage. We're buying a car wash together. So there will be combined assets here in the not too distant future. But end of the day, there is yours, mine, and ours. And I've had relationships, I'm divorced. So I've had relationships go the way I didn't think that they would go. And I've had joint venture business partnerships with people that I'm really surprised don't behave the way that I think that they would behave, So here, in anything that I do that is going to have an asset related to it, you got to have the tough questions, the tough conversations up front. And your unwillingness to have a hard conversation doesn't mean it's going to go well. It just means it's going to get harder if stuff goes wrong.
More relationships flounder on that point. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Your website again, and what you would like to leave our audience with.
Yes, gobundancewomen.com, GOBUNDANCEWOMEN.com. What I would love to leave the audience with is you get a choice. If you have followed the path of, I have become a doctor because I have gone to medical school and now I've done all of these things and now I must stay a doctor, you don't have to do anything. You get one big life. You get one chance to chase this set of dreams that you've got for yourself. It's up to you to decide what you want and run after it.
Well, on that note, Mandy McAllister, we say thank you for a very, very interesting time together.
Thank you, Don. This was lovely.